Hey y'all, my name is Holly Lamb and welcome to Lamb Living. Today I'm participating in the Hello Fall collaboration and there'll be a playlist linked in my description box, but I'll talk about those lovely ladies a little bit later. We start off at the Salvation Army thrift store here in Glenn County, and there's always treasures to be found there. The green stickers were half off that day, so that big L that I picked up was going to be $1.50. That ship was very interesting to me, but this little apple stool caught my eye. I think it maybe was the apples because I'm really kind of feeling the apples right now with school starting and everything. But the little milking stool was so cute, and I've been in kind of a farmhouse phase right now where I'm really enjoying things in black and white and just adding lots of neutrals. I spent a whole summer with citrus fruits, so I'm really, kind of embracing neutrals right now. All right, so I'm going to end up putting 3 coats of plaster chalk paint by Waverly. I get my Waverly paints at Walmart, and I'm going to make sure that I sand down anything that would be reminiscent, any paint that's going to stick up from that apple and that check pattern on the top there. So it's nice and smooth. I don't want any of that to show through. So here I am just giving it a real good look-see. Inevitably, when I'm painting chairs or rungs of chairs or spindles, I miss a big old spot where I thought I had everything, but then I just have a big old spot. So I end up with 3 coats of paint. And now I'm just going to distress back any edges that, would normally get wear. And make sure that all my chalk paint, I take off all of the paint, the brush strokes. Now, I found this 42 stencils. It's a paper pack of stencils from Folk Art. I found it at Ollie's and Waycross, and I thought, wow, for $3.99, that's a great deal. And the only real downside to these paper there's 2 that I can think of to these paper stencils is you can't see through it. So right here, I'm touching and kind of bending it a little bit to feel where the stool is. And then I'll flip it over to make sure I'm in the middle. I can't see through it, which a clear stencil definitely is better for that. And then I can't use it when I'm dyeing paper. I can't put my food dye and just lay it in this stencil like I can with the plastic stencils. And so otherwise, I love these. You can trim them very easily, and they can fit into hard, strange spots and surfaces where that can kind of bend them and manipulate them. I don't mind these paper stencils at all. The only thing that's a problem is you have to pop out all the stencil pieces, and that takes a little bit of time, but it's not hard. It's just kind of monotonous. But I'm just taking my Moss Waverly chalk paint and a little bit of that metallic sugar. It's called Sand Dollar from Hobby Lobby. And this has a texture to it. It's almost like it does have sugar in it. And this turns out so pretty. It has a little texture, little gold. And then I'm going to take this Fruitful Harvest stamp set from IOD, Iron Orchid Designs. And I'm going to be using this stamp set quite a bit in this video. It's just going to be my go-to. If you want to save money, use stamps and stencils because they're reusable. And so I have really been loving my stamps and stencils this summer, and I'm going to definitely be using them into fall and Christmas crafting because, and especially these IOD products, they're just so detailed. And I'm using that Reflections ink from Michaels, and I'm just putting on these stamps and getting that little bit of gold leaf design on this beautiful flower. And I think it just turns out so pretty. I'm going to take it outside and spray it with this sealer, and I'll show you that in a little while when I finish spraying because I took everything out at the same time. And then it's ready to be a darling little riser and just a little accent piece to my little fall vignette there. And I'm going to take that gold, I guess it's a pumpkin, maybe a gourd, and just put it up there. And that completes the look. Love it. All right, now let's take a hold of that L that I got there at the Salvation Army and thrift store. And here comes the plaster chalk paint. I'm starting on the back this time. I like to do the underside of things and the back of things first. I usually find that that is the easiest way for me to get a nice clean top. And so see, I had some bleed over of the paint, and I can easily just sand that off the edges. Now, red paint is just, I mean, it's a chore. And somebody had painted this darling little lighthouse. You know, I get it. It was pretty. The L, nice, very nice. But red is just not, even in the fall. Now at Christmas time maybe, but that red lighthouse had to go. So I did lots of baby wipes and lots of sandpaper, and I'm going to end up doing 3 coats of plaster chalk paint to cover up this red lighthouse. But the sandpaper, I just got all the bumps and any kind of texture that would have left. There's 1 coat. Can still see it. So we need 1 more. Here comes the 2nd coat. And this L, I'm going to be putting some florals on that I thought looked like fall. And the 3rd coat is going to come when I put on my inlay. This is the paint inlay melange from IOD. And it has lots of what we call smalls. And so you can piece these together. I did this artichoke on a video not too long ago, and I can get a couple more uses out of that one. So I let it dry and I can use it again. But I'm going to use this real tall floral. It looked like some kind of, you know, maybe a wildflower or weed that would be growing kind of, you know, rampant, or in a meadow somewhere, maybe a marsh grass. We've got lots of them. Oh my goodness, our marshes love this hot, wet weather. We have such humidity right now, and our marshes are just bright green. I'll have to put a picture. I don't have one in this video, but I'll have to put a picture of the marsh. The marsh loves this hot, wet weather in August, and it's just so beautiful. So I decide on my inlays, and then here comes coat number 3. So the 3rd coat is going to be what I'm going to be putting my paint inlay into. So I've got my little paint inlays. They're cut out, and I've decided where I want them. And then the 3rd coat goes on fresh, and you put the paint right inside. Now I have a wet rag right there, and I'm just patting it right into that wet paint. My brayer helps as well to get it as smooth as I can. If there's a few wrinkles, I don't mind it, but the brayer certainly helps embed it into that wet paint. So here goes that large floral. I put a little bit of wording, a little bit of type there. I'm going to put a little type at the bottom of the L as well. Okay, so it goes into wet paint, and then we wet the paper that the inlay is on. So the grid side is up, and that is what I'm wetting on that paper side. So it's wet on both sides. That activates the paint design and will embed into that paint as it dries. So there we go. 1 more floral, 1 more bit of verbiage. Roll it on and dab it in. And then it has to let dry. And so I let it dry for a couple of hours. I come back in with my mister, and I'm going to just put an even mist over the whole thing so it's good and dry. You can tell it's very light. As I wet it again, you're going to see the darkness come back. And I'm going to make sure there's no pooling. I don't have any extra water there, but it's wet. It's very wet. And then I wait. And are you ready? And voila, there it is. Oh, I just love these paint inlays. Now I can use that 2 more times, maybe 3 more times, depending on how light I want the pattern. If you want it light, you could get that 3rd time in there. It would be the 4th, but 3 for sure. And so those I will be able to use again. And I love the way this looks. Now the paper that the paint inlay is on will leave a little bit of a different texture where it was. And so I just take just a dab of the same paint, and I just dab all around, not on the paint inlay, just where the paper was, where there was no paint. And so I just blend it in with everything else, and there it's blended. It's going to dry, and you'll never know where that paper was, the carrier for the paint and lay. Now I'm just going to take my nail file and my little sanding block there and just rough up the edges a little bit. I'm going to take it outside and spray a clear sealer, a matte clear sealer, and I just love the way this turns out. Just that fun little L cut out. Probably came from Hobby Lobby or Michael's or someplace like that. I've seen them at both places, and I just love it. $1.50 for that L, and those paint inlays are just beautiful. I just took a couple of leaves from some Dollar Tree picks, and that's a Dollar Tree bow. I'll show that in just a minute on the next DIY that I'm going to be doing. Beautiful. Okay, now this rolling pin, I couldn't even find in my files, in my photo files, where I even bought this thing. It's not wood. It's kind of a resin. It's like a cast resin. It's not heavy, but it's not too pretty. So I knew it had to be, it could not go as it was. It had to be completely painted. So I went ahead and put, 3 coats, my usual 3 coats of plaster or, chalk paint, whatever chalk paint. And then I'm just going to bring back, it had, because it was resin cast, it had a grain to it. So I just brought back a little bit of the grain, just the high points, and then the edges of my rolling pin there with my 220 sandpaper and my little nail file. Yeah, just a little bit, just to rough it up so it's not so bright white. All right, so now I'm going to be using those Fruitful Harvest stamps. Yep. It's all set, ready to go, just my chalk paint and sanded. Okay, I have not sealed it yet, and so it is ready for stamps for my ink. Now, I have measured how far around with that thin mount, that little piece with the grid on it, how much I need to fill it up with stamps. And so it was about half of that thin mount to go around that particular rolling pin. And so I'm just going to fill it up with some of the leaves and some of the acorns. And I also got one of those, I don't even know what they're called. They're those little helicopters. They have one of those stamps. I thought it was real cute. Now I'm practicing here. No ink are on my stamps yet. No ink is on the stamps. And there we go. I'm just practicing. Now I've seen Zeb Ray from Jamie Ray Vintage. Zeb likes to just roll across after he inks his stamps. But I'm not as strong as Zeb is, seemingly. I'm certainly not going to have the strength he's going to have. So I wanted to roll it up and push and hold it together to really get a nice, strong stamped image. Because if I just roll it, I was afraid that it would not be, it'd be too light. And I'd never be able to get it, to do it again. I wouldn't be able to get a second application on this. So I'm going to roll it up tight, very tight. I'm going to scoot it to the edge so I can get my thumbs underneath that thin mount. And then I'm just going to tightly roll it up, push my hand around, and then let it go. Oh my gosh, I cannot believe that worked. In my mind, it should have worked, but you know how that sort of thing never does work, but it did. It worked. I'm so pleased with how it turned out. Now, after looking at it, I wanted to kind of blend in my black ink with the rest of the rolling pin, and then I was going to distress it back. So I went ahead and took my chalkboard paint from the Dollar Tree that I've put a little bit of plaster Paris in to thicken up. I use this all the time for my black painting. And I go ahead and paint it on with a regular brush, and then I take a very fine detail brush. I could have taped it off, but I didn't seem to bother. I just took a detail brush and painted those handles. And then I'm just going to take my Dollar Tree sanding sponge and take off a little bit. And I don't go all the way back to that resin color, whatever that was. I just take it back to a little bit of the plaster white color, and I just love the way this looks. All right, so here we go. This is what I've been spraying. My Rust-Oleum Matte Clear, my favorite top coat, with inlays and stamps, I like to spray it. I don't want to smear my ink. It is permanent ink, but the paint inlay will, if I paint it on, it might smear, and I do not want that. So I always spray if it's not raining. If it's raining, I might wait because I'd rather spray, but I might try to be careful. But I usually just wait and use that Rust-Oleum Matte Clear. Now, after it's clear coated, I can go in and get that wax finish that I love. And I do put clear wax on this piece because it did have that grain texture, that wood grain texture, even though it wasn't real wood. And so it just is a nice finish. I just love the finish of clear wax. It makes that beautifully matte and, you know, nice texture. All right. So here comes the Dollar Tree ribbon. Every time I see these, sorry to anybody who goes into my Dollar Trees, but if I see this buffalo check ribbon that is wired, I'm taking them all. I'm so sorry, but not sorry, because, you know, all is fair in love and retail. And so this stuff is just so easy. I just did a double bow. I tied the bow, and then I tied another one right on top of it. I just think that's the easiest way to do a 4-loop bow, instead of making the bow and then clipping it on with the zip tie or something. I just tied it around. And look how pretty this looks. I'm so pleased with this stamp technique. I'm definitely going to be trying this again. Oh goodness, maybe one for Christmas. That'll be fun. I just love these leaves and the wheat. There's that acorn, and there's that little helicopter. I love that. If you know what tree that comes off of, let me know. Alrighty, so let's move on to our next one. I was at the Family Dollar, and look at the beauty of these florals. $3 for these stems. I think 6 flowers come on them. And then these, I've bought many of these. I love these huge, big, I don't know what, zinnias? What do you think that is? Like a peony? It's not a peony. It's not cupped like it. But I've even bought these purple ones, even though I don't decorate with purple. But I can't resist. They're gorgeous. Look at this. So I'm going to be making a DIY with these pumpkin picks. I end up getting 2 sizes, but I use all of the big ones. But this is my inspiration. This flower that's really a clip. I like these because I can clip them onto anything, including my clothes. I wear these very often to school. But it had glitter on it. And we're getting into the fun months where glitter is a little more acceptable. It's not regular decor because it's fall. It's like a holiday, right? And, you know, glitter's not just for Christmas, even though, yes, it is for Christmas all day long. I love glitter in all forms and fashion. But anyway, I allow myself a little glitter here. And I'm going to use these larger pumpkin picks. Here comes that sugar metallic again in Sandcastle. I really like that golden look. And we're going to use some Crafter Square Ultra Fine Glitter in orange, of course, for pumpkins. So I'm going to take these bright summery roses and we're going to make these into fall florals. And so I'm just going to take that Sandcastle sugar metallic. I got that at Hobby Lobby. And they have a lot of colors in that sugar metallic. And I've painted it on paper before. I should have shown you. I wish I had. But it comes out looking textured, almost like you've painted over sugar. And it really is a beautiful textured look. So you can see the difference there between the white and then what the golden look that it gets with this beautiful metallic. When I say, you know, it says metallic, it really doesn't give a metallic look. It just is a pretty gold. It really is a golden color. And so while it was still wet, I didn't use any glue or anything. I just sprinkled with my fingertips the orange glitter. I didn't want to use the bottle because the bottle just has, it's not like a shaker bottle. It has one opening and I was afraid I'd get big clumps. So I just put it into a bowl there and use my fingertips. Almost like I was just doing a pinch of salt into a recipe. And look how pretty. Now, that would have been beautiful enough. And honestly, that was a gorgeous look. But I'm going to go ahead and make these just a little more fall feel. And I snipped off with my little shears from the Dollar Tree. I snipped off part of that, a large part of that dowel piece. It was very thin, but I left a little bit, about an inch, so that I could put my hot glue on that dowel. You know, of course, like as well as I do, that styrofoam, these pumpkins are styrofoam, doesn't like hot glue. And so I put the hot glue on the little wooden stem, or the little wooden dowel, and just let it kind of fall down on there. Give it a little twist and just stick it in there, and it'll dry right down in those petals. And then I took some chickpeas, and sometimes I use beans, sometimes I use lima beans, or, red kidney beans, or that sort of thing. But I find that it makes the flower arranging in these vases just a little bit more friendly and easier to do. So after I painted the stems of my little pumpkins, the sugar metallic sandcastle, and a little bit on top of the pumpkins, just on the little ridges, I love the way these looked. They're so fun, and they look just so neutral, but still a little bit of shimmer, a little bit of glitz for our fabulous fall. And I love it. I love how that looks on my foyer table. All right, so let's throw together a book stack for my last DIY in this video. And I'm going to be using that napkin. But these books I get at my Hello Goodbye, one of my favorite thrift stores. Hardbacks are $0.25, and these paperbacks are a dime. So I just kind of tear off the covers. There we go. And sometimes they're easier to tear off than others, but this is paper. I'm a person. I can handle it. Even though this one was really proving to be difficult, probably because of the water damage. Somebody had spilled some water on it, or it got wet somewhere. So I just took an X-Acto knife. Honestly, my sanding block from the Dollar Tree probably would have been a little better choice, but I had my X-Acto knife sitting there, so there we go. And then the other two were super easy. They ripped off super easy. And so I like to make my paperback book stacks, and really any of my book stacks, to be the same size, and so that's pretty easy to find if you keep your eye out. You can find perfectly. I like to make straight sides and backs. I like everything to match up. So I'm going to hot glue them together here and push them together. I'm going to end up doing that bottom one just a little bit more, and I love the variety of the colors of the paper. So I'm going to take a little bit more of that plaster chalk paint just to even up the fronts. I'm not painting it totally. I don't mind a little bit of that natural book color to come through, especially since my napkin is kind of a brown craft paper tone. But I do want a nice bright back. Now, I liked the name of this particular book. It was I Couldn't Love You More was the name of this book. And so I'm going to have that as the top of my book stack. Yeah, and I'm just going to take some Mod Podge. I had gloss on hand, so that's what I'm going to use here. Matte Mod Podge would have worked just as well. Actually, I would rather use matte Mod Podge. The gloss Mod Podge is pretty stinky. But I have it, so I thought I'd use it right there. Now, I've done the water tear method to tear off my napkin. I wanted that little...
Could you try again?
Oh, Siri. All right. I wanted that whole wreath to be seen, and my book stack wasn't quite tall enough for it to be completely on the front, so I was going to let it just fold over onto that title of the book, I Couldn't Love You More. And so I just used a little bit more water on a little clean paintbrush and tore off just a hair more because I wanted to be able to read that title. I love the way that looks. So pretty, so natural looking. And so I just sand that off and take my little scissors and trim with my sandpaper and scissors, and that's all that needs to happen there. Now I'm going to take my Fruitful Harvest stamps again, but this time I'm going to be layering my stamps just a little bit, where I didn't do that on the rolling pin. I'm going to do it on this book stack. So I have my mask to the small pumpkin in this set. This is the small pumpkin. Look how big it is, and it's the small one. That big pumpkin down there is huge. So I'm just using my black permanent ink from Michaels again, the Reflections ink. And I'm going to stick it right underneath that title sort of toward the middle of the book stack here. I'm going to be putting some ribbon on it, kind of half of this pumpkin. And I will spray it with water so that ink doesn't dry on there, because it's quick dry. Now, I want to make this leaf look like it's behind the pumpkin. So I lay that mask down, and then I put my leaf stamp down. And whatever you stamped first will look like it's in the foreground of the picture. Okay? And so when you put the mask down and stamp over the mask, that's going to look like it's behind the masked image. And my mask was not quite where I wanted it, so because this is a simple stamp, I could easily go back and line it up so that it all matched up, and I love the way that looks. Beautiful. All right, here's my buffalo check. This is going to be my fall this fall. I'm loving black and white right now for some reason. Now I'm just going to wrap this around twice so it has a nice thick wrap around my book stack, just on that one end, so I can still see that leaf and that pumpkin peeking out, and I can easily read that beautiful title. What a pretty thought. I couldn't love you more. So sweet. Now I'm just going to take more of those florals like I put into the ribbon of my L with the paint inlay, and I'm just going to put some of those with the little berries and with the pumpkin. I'm just going to tuck those right up in there. I decide not to use the orange. See, I'm just feeling those natural, neutral colors. So pretty. Down here right now, we don't even, our trees, whatever is going to change, we have so many evergreens and live oaks. We don't get a lot of fall color on the leaves. We do have some deciduous trees, but they're going to change color at Thanksgiving. It'll be late in the fall. I love the way this book stack turned out. My goodness, Siri is all about me today. So pretty. I love the way that looks. And pretty there. And there's my little sidekick, Toby, and he reminds me, 1 John 4:7, Dear friends, let us love one another, for love comes from God. Everyone who loves has been born of God and knows God. Such a pretty reminder. I want to thank Tammy from The Rusted Willow and Ellie from DIY From House to Home for hosting this wonderful collab, and Cheryl is our guest host from Farmhouse Frugally. Be sure to check out the playlist below, and you'll find lots of other creators. They're such sweet people. We talk on Instagram and through our YouTube videos, and they're just so uplifting and kind. They're just wonderful people, and so I hope that you'll go and check out the playlist. Thank you for watching my video today. I hope that you will click that subscribe button and subscribe to my channel and hit the like button if you liked it, and leave me a comment. Tell me which one was your favorite. Are you feeling the black and white, the neutrals, or are you going full on orange this fall? And how you're feeling about it. I just love the way that looks. I want to thank you again for watching. I hope God blesses you richly. So from the Blue House on the Corner, I wish you a happy start to fall crafting. God bless. And I'll see you next time. Bye-bye.